This is the BEMA department at CCSF. We work with video, sound, light, editing, and live streaming to make magic happen. These clips are of the students from BCST 141, the Intro to Field Video Production class. They worked together with City College fashion students and graphic design students to develop show elements for the final fashion presentations for the spring of 2023. In class and on set, teamwork is key. Being able to work together is an important life skill that needs to be practiced, and BEMA classes provide countless opportunities to exercise this.
What it looks like when we're not doing anything.
Working well in teams helps create a space where everyone feels more open to expressing their ideas. Feeling at ease with your team allows you to create fun, amazing projects with a variety of viewpoints and skills.
Feeling fantastic.
I'm feeling way better now that I have this coffee.
BEMA also teaches the importance of good communication and role dedication. Being able to describe desired shots to others while also giving room for creative ingenuity is critical for a successful production. But it's not just teamwork. Video and media production also combines both artistic skills and technical know-how. Students not only learn how to set up and operate various types of gear, but also how to use visual and auditory components creatively to tell a story. This involves coming up with choreography, camera movement, and lighting designs, as well as manning cameras and switchers to capture shots which can have its own challenges.
Are you excited too?
So excited.
What do you think?
I'm super excited. She's already excited. Thank you.
Imagination, and then step back to that, and then it's for this guy. You know, so really take your time. The more the better, the longer the better. Yeah.
All right, ready, record. Record.
I think this is a really great way to practice our skills that we've been learning in class, and it's so cool to see it all happen in the real world.
There you go. Thanks, Marcelle.
With all these skills in place, students exit BEMA with the ability to better succeed in university or enter the workforce as technicians, camera operators, directors, and more.
It's going to be a great show. I'm excited about it. We have a great team. The students are on board. They're smart and engaged, and they know what they're looking for, and it's going to be a great show.
Introduce Kent Terry, the chair of our local SF San Francisco SMPTE section.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us here, and thank you for coming out for this event today. We're pleased to partner with City College and BEMA, as well as the student chapter of SMPTE, to put this program on for you. So have some slides to show for you here, just a few introductions that we're going to make. Again, I'm the section chair of the section, and John, our moderator today, is one of the governors of the SMPTE, education governor, I believe, and so he's heavily involved in the student chapters, and we're very pleased that we're able to support this as well. So if you could bring the slides up, and I'll go over some of the announcements we have for our section and just a brief overview of some thank yous for this group. So first of all, yes, I'm with the San Francisco section. I'm Kent Terry, and the San Francisco section chair. So on the next slide, we have a list of our sponsors. And I especially want to thank our corporate sponsors and others who have benefited the local section either by their generous donations, by hosting meetings, and sponsoring people. Especially ASB has been a big supporter, as well as Bug ID and Dolby. So we really appreciate our corporate sponsors, and we're always welcome to sponsorship, hosting meetings. So if you or your company or the facility is willing to share and willing to host and provide for us, we always welcome corporate sponsorship for our efforts. So we'll say a special thank you to City College, of course, and BEMA for hosting today's meeting. I understand you've turned this into a project. We think that's a great partnership of SMPTE, working in conjunction with the students in the student group so we can mutually benefit each other. This is a benefit to our society and our section members as well as you as students. And we're going to talk about how we were able to also benefit students. So one of the things on the previous slide was I wanted to thank Sports Video Group especially for helping sponsor the section to student development activities. They made a generous donation, and one of the things we helped sponsor the chapter presidents of our local student chapters to go to NAB this year, and they're going to be talking about their experience. So it was a very generous donation on their part. So just on the previous slide, there were a few announcements. If you can go back one slide. There were some announcements from the group. Just we're working on a meeting for next month. I think it's scheduled for June 20th. I also wanted to announce we had a LinkedIn channel that I would encourage you all to check out and join. That would be a benefit. Actually, let's just stay on this slide. This is talking about benefits for new members. So if you're already a member or not a member, the society's introduced some new exciting benefits this year. One of them is free unlimited standards. Now, not all of you need standards, but for those of you who do, this is a great benefit, so you don't have to buy them. All members will get them for free now. Free access to the self-study library, which is another great benefit. We have a lot of educational resources on the SMPTE website, and you can take advantage of that now as a member. And for members who would benefit from a monthly subscription plan, the society's introduced this now, so you don't have to pay up front every year. And of course, as students, I think your first year of a student is free as a student membership and continues to be free. And beyond that is low cost. So it's a great benefit. And I think there's one more slide on the final benefit. Yes, we have the new journal format. So a lot of good articles in our journal. It's a great resource. And again, as a member, you have access to these online as well. And then on the whole history of the SMPTE journal. So that's a great benefit. So, but it's a pleasure to be with you today. And what we're going to be talking about is NAB. NAB is one of probably the premier gathering of industry professionals in the broadcast industry. While it's largely touted as a manufacturer show for showing products, it's really where the people who are the big players in the broadcast industry gather. And it's an incredible opportunity to see people, learn people, meet people, and that's one of the advantages SMPTE brings is that kind of networking experience. So you can collaborate with industry professionals both here and around the world. SMPTE is a worldwide organization, and it gives you a chance to meet and be involved in and participate in the industry worldwide. So I strongly encourage you to investigate membership. I'm going to turn it over to our host, John, here, who's going to moderate the panel and introduce them, and he's going to tell them about the experiences in NAB this year. We like to, every year after NAB when we can, we've had a little hiatus in the pandemic, but we like to cover what's new and what's going on in the industry at NAB. So, and we're also very interested in the student perspective from Marcelle and Joseph, as I think it was your first time in NAB, and we're very interested to see what your perspective is on your experience. So thank you again for coming today, and over to John.
Okay. So thanks very much, Kent, appreciate it. And also special thanks for that promotion just now from director to governor. So it's on the recording, so you all heard it, so you all know. So anyway, so Eddie, my slides, I got the first slide, please. And the first slide will remind me who I am, so that's important.
Director or governor?
Yeah, probably. There we are. So yeah, so I'm an account manager with Advanced Systems Group, and I'm also a membership director at SMPTE. Next slide, please. So I'm really pleased to have on our panel today our student SMPTE chapter presidents, Marcelle Rutherford, who is from City College San Francisco and also representing San Francisco State University. And then also Joseph Borrego, who is joining us from De Anza. De Anza was community college, was the first, goes back about 5 years now, that started a student chapter in the Bay Area. Really pleased, because that's really, everything's grown from there. By the way, in the audience, Pat Griffith has been absolutely tremendous, our past president of SMPTE, to help get all of this started. So thanks so much. Glad to have you here, Pat. So, and I'm going to continue now, next slide. On our panel, so joining us as professionals from the industry to really talk about NAB from their perspective, Matt Levine from Bug-Eyed. So Matt is the owner of Bug-Eyed. From Advanced Systems Group, we have the president, Dave Van Hoy. And from NVIDIA, joining us is the, if I got this right, Senior Engineer for Professional Video Applications, Thomas True.
Yes.
Pretty close anyway, so thanks, great. So next slide. So basically what NAB is, this year 61,000 attendees came to the show. Half of the attendees were new, so they'd never been to the NAB show before. So a lot of people coming to check out what's the latest and greatest in the industry. 27% of the audience was from other places in the world outside of the United States. So it is a global show. And there were 1,300 exhibits, and 200 of those exhibits were first-time vendors coming to the show. And I think there were about 200 of the artificial intelligence and machine learning type vendors at the show as well. So, in fact, NVIDIA was there, right? So anyway, I'll continue, but essentially this is not just a show for television, broadcast equipment. There's film, there's digital media in all of its forms, live event video, etc. So it makes a very important show for all kinds of areas of our technology. So I'm not sure, I don't think there are any more slides, so let's just stop there. And I'll ask my first question of the panel. Oh, okay, so what that, we kind of jumped ahead, but Marcelle and Joseph actually spent 2 days at the show. And the first day they really spent looking at the exhibits. And so at the exhibits, this was actually Casper Skarhoy, who has a company called Skarhoy, and he makes all kinds of really cool like little controllers and so on, so that whether it's your audio or video device, you have easy access to it. So they started the day by interviewing Casper. So I'll ask Marcelle and Joseph, maybe give your impressions of the show.
I learned a lot at this show as a student. You know, we're getting in on equipment that's maybe a year or two old, in our case at City College, sometimes older. And so it's really interesting and cool to see all the newest toys in the industry and learn about them too from the people who helped make them. Like my focus of study is in video editing, and I got some excellent hands-on tutorials of the new Premiere update and the new Adobe After Effects update from people who designed the platform, and it was super cool to see that and get to stand next to them and them take me through something they worked really hard on and something that I use every day, and it kind of gave me a jump start into getting to know the industry, so it was really awesome.
Sounds great. Joseph, you want to continue?
Sure. So going for the first time, it's really big. Like, to put it into perspective, I've been to Comic-Con. It's like one of the floors. There's 4 of these at NAB, and that was like not overwhelming, but it was like, whoa, right? So there was a lot to explore. We had like a day and a half where we just explored the floors, because there's the north, south, east, and west floors, and there's just so much, from demos to, you know, just new products and talks that are happening on the floor. There's just so much to really explore, and yeah, there's a ton I learned. Yeah.
So I'm going to add that to my bullet points explaining NAB. It's 4 times the size of Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree.
So you know, let me move on to Dave. Maybe talk about some of the products or the technologies you saw at the show that you thought of interest.
There was a lot, and you know, there always is. Certainly, AI and ML was a big talk there, but I think actually the most interesting thing this time was the attendees, and I know we'll talk about that more. But it was a tangibly different group this year, and I think that drives what technology they're looking at. So you know, this year I think the most outstanding thing that I saw was the proliferation of 2110 enabled devices. You know, IP transport of video.
SMPTE 2110.
Yes, SMPTE 2110. Yes, the credit where credit is due. And but to see products at the price range of Blackmagic enabled with IP transport in the SMPTE 2110 format, to see Netgear supporting switches at that price point, really is a big knee in terms of where we can deploy those kinds of technologies. It's moved it from the large infrastructure, millions of dollars into the realm that almost any studio can use it.
So Matt, you want to continue from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the convergence of IT to broadcast just keeps getting
more amalgamated in terms of, you know, everything is IP based. Seen a lot more transport. Compression's getting better. Now you get NDI6 that can support HDR, I think is a big step, in addition to a lot of 2110. I think the SMPTE 2110 at Blackmagic is a big game changer because it does lower that price point. Also, the technology is, you know, you got the big broadcasters, but there's also a lot of interesting technology with iPhones. You know, Atomos has an iPhone, you know, use your iPhone to record from your DSLR to the cloud and to your camera, you know, from a camera. You can put prime lenses on your iPhone. So I think, I just think, you know, going back to, it used to take millions of dollars to build studios like this and control rooms, and now you can do so much at a lower price point. But yet you still have the high-end XR and VR, you know, so you got extended reality that's really making a big push. That is still high cost, but you do have some low-cost options. So to me, it's always fascinating. It is, I think NAB is overwhelming. It is huge, and there's just so much technology to look at and see. So it's always impressive.
So Tom, same question for you. Any products or technologies that you think
Yeah,
of?
again, for me it was, like these guys said, the proliferation of SMPTE 2110 and the fact that when Blackmagic can give you a switcher now that does 2110, that lowers the bar for everyone. And they also have some unique devices that do 2110 and SDI and HDMI, so you can go out one and in the other, and it helps you bridge the gap as you move your setup from from SDI or HDMI up to 2110. So it gives you a nice starting point. And then I think another thing at the show was, of course, the proliferation of AI in some of the different creative tools. I'm not a really creative person myself, but I see within Premiere and in like DaVinci Resolve where there are more and more AI plugins to do different things. And then in broadcast, you now have AI that can track the talent on the stage and things like that. So that was great to see as well.
That was a great mention because virtual production has been an area of special interest in the Bay Area. A lot of schools investing, and green screen behind me, maybe you don't see it because you've got the insert here, but a lot of things happening. And I noticed that you mentioned SMPTE 2110 earlier, and now a lot of these processors that are used for virtual production now have SMPTE 2110 inputs as well as SDI inputs and so on. So I thought that was, you know, continues to show the progress of video over IP. So one product I saw, and if I have one slide left that you can bring up, I'll show everybody, but I thought this was cool. Although this product was, no, sorry, okay, you missed my slide, so don't forget it, but it was like the robot. No, you don't have that one handy? So there was a robot that was shown, forget that one for now. It was actually shown by Ross Video, but it combined a robot that rolls around the floor, fully controlled, perfect for like a newsroom application as an example, but with a teleprompter built in, the camera built in, video return for the talent. Oh, there it is. I just thought, I saw that, I looked at that. I think it's called Artemo, but I just thought this was one of the cool things that kind of blew my mind. And so like Matt was saying before, there are all these amazing products now to expand on your iPhone, but at the broadcast side, at the higher end, a lot of other new cool products. Fantastic new cameras from Canon, from Panasonic, from Sony, and so on. So for me, a very exciting show in many ways too. So I just wanted to throw that in, sorry guys. Actually, what I would do is ask Marcelle, you said you ran into this product first day. I don't know if you remember, but I think you said it was like from Yellow Tack or something. Oh, tell us about it.
So that was particularly relevant because I actually for my class that I'm currently in, where the lovely crew in front of me is members of that same class, I was video editor on a project where we did an interview with the owner of the Balboa Theater, and we had some audio issues on the interview. And our audio track was very just peaking a lot. We had a lot of problems, and we had to fix it in post. It was a whole thing. And so I just finished wrapping that up and sent in my edit of that, and I was still stressing about the audio, and then I was on the floor at NAB, and I walked up to the me and Joseph walked up to the Yellow Tech Labs booth that had all these microphones. And the guy started showing us all these mics that correct and edit live while you're recording. So he was holding up the mic and saying, and we were wearing headphones, and he would go, now I'm talking like this and that, and he would just, go louder and louder, and it would all sound exactly the same neutral level. And it was like flawless. There was no distortion or anything like that. And so I was just, and then right after that, I saw a camera that color corrects live, and I had to color correct that video as well. So I was seeing like the automatic brand new solutions to the problems I'd just been having being presented to me, and that was kind of cool, because it was kind of like, wow, someday maybe I'll get to use cool things like this. But it was really cool to see that all these issues I'd been having are getting addressed by the people who make the technology, so that you can, as a creative person, focus on things other than peaking audio in your video. So I thought that was really cool and relevant to what I was dealing with at the time. So yeah.
I don't know, Joseph, did you see any product that kind of blew your mind the way that one did?
Well, it was more to that. It's not just a lot of products and solutions for enterprise. It was all stuff that was like applicable to students and stuff today in my current scenario as a film student. And so seeing, the new cameras, the new microphones for just broadcasts, and it was all new, but it's not stuff that's out of, say, a student's price range. It was stuff that like I could get in the next couple years and like my hands on, just because it was so affordable. And more to that, it was just amazing to see the variability and to the market. It wasn't all high-end stuff. It wasn't all the best of the best. It was like the best of what you can afford as well. So it was really, a lot of that tech really stood out to me. But specifically, man, I can't get my mind off of those microphones, because those are really cool.
They were crazy.
So this is now an advertisement. So actually, we did talk about SMPTE 2110, and it actually became a lot more affordable based on various products. And Dave, you were mentioning that before. But from the panel, I think there was also a continued expansion of NDI, which is, for those who are not familiar with, I think it stands for something like network device
interface.
Yeah, and but it's a way of doing video over IP. It uses compression, and it brings all of the signals, video, audio, if there's there, power, all kinds of things like that, control for cameras and so on, all into one signal that goes over standard CAT cable. So it's very easy in terms of like installation or use. So I don't know if there was any people noticed the NDI products at the show.
Oh, tremendous. I mean, NDI is huge.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that JVC actually has a switcher. The one thing with NDI, it's so customizable. No manufacturers have really embraced it on the switching side. And JVC now has a computer and a branded system that you could actually make, which is good as an integrator. It helps us for support, because NDI and vMix is a very popular software, but it's very solution-based and customizable. So it's hard as an integrator to support vMix, and it's nice to see JVC as a big manufacturer supporting that.
And Ross with the
Ross
carbonite
is now too.
NDI as well.
Yeah.
And John, I think your microphone's laying on your lap.
Oh, so we should know that
Need some scotch tape.
Dave started in the audio side, right?
Kind of noticed the flying microphone.
So, but speaking of NDI, I don't know if you noticed the new NDI 6.
Yeah.
Big changes.
It supports HDR, which is a big change. To be able to support HDR and the compression, I mean, I saw some videos that it looks good.
Yeah, and 10-bit throughput. The magic of NDI has been the lossless codec, and the fact that they figured out how to do the calculations in real time without having to decompress the signal, and so extending that to do HDR and 10-bit, it's a big trick, and it's not a small amount of work.
And for those in the audience not familiar with HDR, that's high dynamic range, And coupled with that is wide color gamut. And really what that means, it means all the better color, all the better range of black through white, through all of the shades of gray. It really is an amazing improvement to the video image, to the quality of the image. And it's something that SMPTE has been part and parcel with.
Yes.
So, made the standard. And made the standard, as our past president will tell us. So in terms of technologies, I think one of the technologies was introduced by NVIDIA at the show. Thomas, is something you could tell us about that?
Yeah, if you could bring up the slide. So yeah, we were showing what we call HoloScan for media, but it's really a platform for software-defined workflows. So right now the industry is in kind of a transition between a traditional baseband pipeline like you have here, where you have SDI capture devices or audio devices on the left, and then you have bespoke pieces of equipment in your chain, whether it be a switcher or a graphics engine or an encoder or decoder in your, so that it's bespoke special purpose hardware, and then you have your different output formats or whatever. And then if you, it's live video pipeline, so it'd be SDI or like I said, baseband. Now if we go to the next slide, the industry is kind of moving to a video over IP software-defined workflow built on what we call COTS hardware, so common off-the-shelf hardware. So in other words, servers, and then you have your video is now IP, whether it be SMPTE 2110 or NDI as we talked about, or RIST or SRT, which are also other video transports. And then they go into a server, and then the applications are now deployed on a server-based hardware in a containerized model where you can have your switcher and your encoder, decoders, and all those as different containers, and then they can share the data between them and pass it within the servers. So instead of buying custom hardware that's only good now for one thing, you have the servers that do it, and then your outputs are the same. So this is what we were showing as a platform. If you go to the next slide, like I said, it's built on what we call common off-the-shelf hardware, COTS hardware. It's just a server with a GPU for doing video processing, and then network interfaces for SMPTE 2110 and RIST and SRT and NDI and things like that. And then the next slide, we were showing it what we call on-prem, so we were showing it like if it was in your facility, but this could also be done in the cloud, and you'll see it in the cloud in the future. And then it's built on a software stack that includes what's called Kubernetes, which is a platform for deploying container-based applications. And then all the things that you need for a broadcast workflow are there, like the network operator, which controls your network interfaces, the GPU, which is operator, which is basically how you talk to the GPU in this environment. And then you have PTP stack, which is for precision time protocol, so we can synchronize the audio and the video. And then you build the applications on top. So we can go to the next slide. And yeah, so then you have multiple applications that are, one could be a switcher, one could be encoding, decoding, multi-viewer, things like that, all deployed as containers, and they just sit on top of this software platform. And then the next slide, this is just the whole stack all together. And then if we go one more. So then the way you control all these applications is through what we call NMOS, which is the Network Media Open Standard, which is another industry standard for the control plane. So you have SMPTE 2110 or NDI or whatever for the data plane, but then you need a control plane to connect all the applications together to define a workflow, and that's all done through NMOS, or Ross Video has a proprietary system, or it's kind of a semi-open standard called Catena, which is similar, but again, it's a control plane. So here is just a graphic of how you can take all these applications that register into NMOS and then loop them all together, so you can take your video inputs on the left, go through your the vision mixer, audio mixer, do some graphics inserting, add like your bottom thirds, and then do the logo, and then go out the output side. So this was how we used NMOS for this, and I think that's the last slide. So we were demonstrating this on the show floor as a platform for developers to join and start working with. And I know ASG is one of our developers that's been playing with it. And then, but it's a platform, and it's not unique to NVIDIA. It's kind of an open platform built on OpenShift, Kubernetes, and different open pieces of open source software. But it's the way that the industry is going, is it moves away from like FPGA-based specific.
Truly software defined.
Yeah, it's truly a software defined workflow.
It's quite an environment.
Yeah.
So this is really something that we've seen the last few NAB shows, and it really continues, which is the reimagining of what video is. You know, video was originally analog, and now it's digital, but even in its digital format, it's being sort of reimagined as an IP stream, as SMPTE 2110, as NDI, we were talking about NDI before, as something that exists within a computer, within the CPU or within the GPU in this case. And so it's amazing because, you know, new things that I couldn't imagine 10, 20 years ago, how many different levels of video in real time flowing through, being composited in real time. It's just fantastic what is possible now. And I guess alongside that, what's happening with the way video is being treated in terms of software, you mentioned software-defined workflow, comes along with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I don't know if anyone on the panel would like to talk to AI, maybe? Dave, I'll give you.
Oh, sure, why not? About a year ago, we launched our first AI group, and it's centered around the idea of helping our clients learn practical applications for AI beyond, let's do ChatGPT. And it's everywhere around us, but in media applications, there are many possibilities for how it could get used. And we have a group led by Tyler Berry and Tom that are out conducting workshops with our clients to look at how, what kinds of deployments do we want to do. And then we have a second group that actually does deployments. And then a third group that does storage specifically for AI. It's a huge topic because it can touch anything. It could be from directing what you're going to see to changing you into a monkey face in real time. And the idea of integrating it with things like HoloScan for media, and once we're in that IP environment, the idea of implementing either an AI or ML becomes a lot easier to do. And clearly that's a big topic today.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another software-defined application, containerized application that you drop into the pipeline.
Exactly. And so, today, the audience doesn't see it, but behind John, there's a nice green screen. But, and we do that live, but if that was a high production value feature film, there would be people painting out little pixels in the background, making sure that it was perfect. I doubt we're going to do that with AIs anymore. They will do that, and there will be no more manual rotoscoping as just one tiny example.
And actually, I don't know, Marcelle, Joseph, did either of you see maybe like with Adobe or something, what they're using with AI?
There was a lot with Adobe, actually. So in the new Premiere update, they ended up having a demo surrounding their new audio AI software. So there's like a plugin that you can have to clean up any audio files or segments, clips, where it would, isolate and recognize whether the clip is music, dialogue, whatever have you, sound effect, and then isolate it, and then it would do that for you in Premiere instead of having you to take it to Audition and then edit it manually, bring it back, all that. Instead, they had the plugin, they demonstrated that. And Marcelle, was there another use case?
I think there was some AI integration into Frame.io, if I remember, but not. I mean, the main one that stood out to me was the audio plugin because it was in the essential sound panel. It changed so that you can distinguish between if something is dialogue or music, and then if it's dialogue, gave you more options to specify. Like, I want this to be a podcast host. I want their voice to sound like they're in an echoey room. And it would edit the audio to match that. And it was really good. They showed us some example audio that was kind of messed up from a really old video from like the 80s or something, and they made it sound crispy clear on the spot. So it was really cool to see how, you know, AI can even help with things like digitizing old media.
Yeah.
So it sounds like to me that, well, we worry about AI, right, to some degree, you know, will it take jobs and things like that, but for the examples you're giving, it's actually very helpful for how you see the kind of job you want to do in the future, editing, handling the audio and things of that sort.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things of, you know, you can get really freaked out about it, but it's coming anyway, so you might as well not get that freaked out about it. And also in terms of just like, I'm a really artistic person. I'm much more on the creative side. I'm not super technical minded. I can learn it, but it's not my favorite thing to learn. And anything that makes so that I have to do less ridiculous, nitpicky, technical stuff and more like making the cool creative things I like to make is great, right? Because then you can just spend more time being creative. So a lot of the AI tools that I saw at NAB were more so, I saw a lot less of the things of like taking jobs from creators and a lot more making creators' jobs more streamlined.
I, in fact, Kent early in the introduction mentioned the Silicon Valley Video Summit that we all participated, a lot of us participated in, including SMPTE. And there was a product there, an AI product I thought was really cool called Kubrick. And what it did is it took 2D images and it extruded them into 2.5D. So for a virtual background, you suddenly had something that was a lot more usable and would take a lot of work if you had to do it manually. So I thought that was tremendous. I don't know if anyone else see an AI tool at the show or product or something that was, oh, Dave.
Yeah, well, there were many, many, many. As you saw, there were more than 200 exhibitors that were all doing some form of AI or ML. I think audio tools actually were some of the most impressive ones. And in particular, the tools that were used to produce the new Beatles song, where everybody thinks that they use the AI to resynthesize John Lennon's voice, but that's not correct. What they did was they used the AI to strip out all of the background noise and garbage from this cassette deck that he recorded that sat on top of his piano. And that's what made the song possible. There was no tool before this could have done that.
So turning my bosses. Anyway, we had a wrong graphic there, but that's okay. So yeah, I think I agree with you. AI can be a tremendous value, something that was really exciting, seeing the virtual production equipment, seeing some of the latest technologies. Did anyone see anything particularly cool in the way of cameras at the show? Let me ask. Oh, Marcelle.
One thing that was really cool, so I'd only been to MTS before this, and the Silicon Valley Video Conference were my only two ones. So I'd never been to these ones where you can actually like really play with the tech there. And they had like scenes at some of the Canon and a couple other camera booths. They had like actors lit and set up where you could play with the cameras with an actual set. And there was one really cool one that I remember talking to you about, John, where you could, I forget which booth it was, it might have been Nikon, but I can't remember. But you could set up the camera and you could show it a reference shot, like set up one of 3 cameras with the reference shot, and then the other cameras would match the color, would correct their color live to match the reference shot. So instead of the settings being the same across the board as the reference camera, the other 2 cameras were like actively adjusting their settings to match the look of the other 2 cameras, or of the reference camera, and it was really cool to see that, because you could watch on the actors' faces, you're getting a uniform, energy and light and vibe to the scene, without having to do it in post necessarily. So it's really cool.
I don't know if they ended up showcasing the new Blackmagic camera, the 6K. But I do remember seeing that plastered everywhere because at a consumer level. I know that was definitely sought after at the event. But that was definitely an advancement, a product that stood out to me in terms of cameras.
Yeah, and I think at the other end, you can't be in this business and not love cameras. It's, you know, if you don't like cameras and glass, you probably shouldn't be here. And at the very other end of the market from the Blackmagic was the new Sony Vienna. And, you know, what they are able to do with the digital sensors there, you know, a lot of us worked in film, and, you know, so the standard was, you know, can you match film? Can you get beyond film? And, you know, the new camera can do 22 stops of dynamic range, which is, it's kind of nuts. I mean, that's, you know, that's shooting detail in the dark. And I think that's going to really give filmmakers some amazing tools.
I think some of the AI tracking in cameras is really improving. And mixing the algorithms of the audio with the DSP to cameras, it's getting a lot more accurate. And it just keeps getting better. I mean, I know QSC's even improved with Seer Vision in terms of having multiple PTZ cameras doing auto switching. There's still a little delay, but it's every year it keeps getting better and smarter, because it is learning, which is a little scary, but it is learning.
Yeah, and the Ross auto tracking was amazing too.
The Ross one was cool.
How about you, Tom? Did you look at any of the cameras or lighting?
Not really.
or that kind of stuff?
I mean, not really a camera. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not really a camera guy, so. I mean, I thought
it's just the thing that goes into the hollow scan.
That's right. I mean, I'm excited when a camera spits out SMPTE like the red camera does, because then it comes right into our workflow without having to be transcoded or anything. So.
Yeah, and there were some amazing new prime lenses and things like that at the show, Fujinon, et cetera, that were just incredible. But you mentioned Sony and also about AI with cameras and such. Marcelle mentioned that about color matching between cameras automatically using AI. But Sony was showing a PTZ camera, a camera that does pan, tilt, and zoom. So that's great for a small robot camera with auto tracking, and so auto framing, so that as a person moves around the stage here, for example, the camera can automatically track that person. But what was really nice and new about the way the Sony's approach is that it was more like a human person, the way that a professional would do that kind of follow, that kind of sense to it. So that was an exciting thing to see.
I was just thinking, what kind of prime lens goes on an iPhone?
Pretty big.
Didn't see that. Is it like a C mount on a?
It was a little plastic case that had little adapters. That was pretty cool.
I think I saw that one.
Right, prime lens for the iPhone. Right?
Yeah.
That was newer.
That was newer. Yeah.
That was newer.
The other thing I thought was interesting is talking about SMPTE is a lot more monitors are now accepting 2110 or NDI directly. And that's been a big challenge, because it's just you've had a lot more conversion, and then you have that latency. So getting directly to a monitor, I think, is a big advancement.
I think we have to make Pat happy, and we have to speak in 2110 language, a de-encapsulator.
And I think I saw ICANN or somebody had like an NDI teleprompter. So, you know, just simplifying the ways that we could just plug systems together to make a working solution. Marcelle, you and Joseph had the chance to get off the exhibit floor and actually go to some of the sessions. I forget, because I've never been to an NAB session in all the years I've been to NAB, but they actually have a conference alongside all of the 1,300 exhibits. So how was that? Was it interesting? What did you get to see?
They were really cool and applicable. I mean, even in my experience as a second year, I was really curious about going into this one. It was like time management for creatives or student creatives or independent creatives. And that was obviously like something I struggle with going late into the night. And so finding out ways to just go to a general session about just time management, or this other one, it was literally just how to be a better producer and what forms to bring to set, and that sort of just general procedure on top of, some other conference. I think I remember seeing you at one of those. I don't remember which one. There's a lot.
We presented at the Broadcast Engineering IT, BEIT part of the conference, the All Scan for Media concept.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, about what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a bit of that. That was a little bit of recap, but Yeah.
I had a similar experience just in terms of like the practicality of some of the sessions, because a lot of them were things like, you know, the future of AI in media. And if you're me and you've been to a lot of conferences recently, you've kind of heard that one a couple times. So I was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to go for some of the more specific stuff. And I ended up going to this one that was like, it was just like client communication kind of thing. It was like, and I've been doing a lot more freelance work, and so it was really cool to get a little rundown from people who've been doing work for a long time on how to like talk to someone who doesn't know what you're talking about your job kind of thing. And I've actually used that lessons a few times since to better results than I was getting before. So, you know, practical, hands-on knowledge that was really helpful for me to get as a student, but also like if I hadn't been a student, that would have been really helpful too. So.
So it sounds like not just the creative side, but understanding the business that we're all involved in, you know, in terms of media technologies. Those kind of sessions were very useful.
Super useful. And then more than that, there was, hypothetical, like brainstorming sessions that NAB does. So there's specific NAB IQ, that's what they call them, sessions, where you just meet random people, strangers, who are just other attendees, and you get to just brainstorm ideas regarding a topic, a prompt. The one I ended up going to on, my second day at the event was surrounding implementation and use case of AI and how we would like to see it as students, or as creatives or what have you. So in a way that isn't obstructive to the creative side, or just a way that can help streamline other people's jobs on set and off set. So yeah, there's those sessions. I enjoyed that a lot. They gave me a free shirt. That's what really got me going. But I won't lie.
Now with the student part.
Yeah, I'm wearing it underneath this.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're talking about the NAB IQ session, and that's really about networking, right? And that's actually another aspect of the trade show I wasn't thinking about, which is, you know, it's an opportunity for a lot of people in the industry that know each other. Sometimes that's the only place you see each other is once a year at NAB in Las Vegas in April. So it's glad you and Marcelle both had a chance to start networking, by the way. How was that?
Yeah,
it was good.
It was very cool.
Everyone was really nice, excited to talk to us. It was cool.
and even for us as professionals, right? I mean, it's
the main reason we go.
Yeah, it saves us traveling to see everyone. We can just see everyone there.
Back to those sessions, I actually also wanted to add, so they're hypothetical like brainstorming sessions, but the products that you can come up with as a group can later be presented to on the floor in front of professionals who might exercise the idea and create something out of it, a business out of it. And that was really the point that I was like, oh, this can be real. I don't know, it was wild.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, exactly.
So, something for the audience to think about really is that NAB is a place that you can present things for the first time. There are a lot of startup companies that come to NAB. One thing that NAB does is they'll have a group of companies from a particular place like Canada or UK, et cetera, and they'll group them together and give smaller vendors an opportunity to present. But this idea, I never thought about have pitch sessions at the NAB show. That's great. That's fantastic. So we were talking about your participating as attendees to a panel. Dave, you actually were presenting on a panel, as I recall, something on the topic of building a studio or something of that sort.
Yeah, so under the NAB innovation area, they were looking at ways to help small and mid-sized companies get off the ground. And so there was a panel presented around the challenges and ranges of beginning facilities, small facilities to mid-sized facilities. And it was a great panel. It included myself and some folks who have a small studio that they do a very consistent podcast out of about AI and ML in the media and entertainment field, interestingly. And then a gentleman, Tom Smetham, who we've worked with, who's actually led the building of 2 mid-sized studios, one at Electronic Arts and one for the Comcast G4 gaming network. And it was a chance to, other than the fact that the microphones didn't work, which was ironic, you know, it was a great chance to talk about, you know, what do people really need to consider, and how do you think about what's a minimum viable facility for you? You know, what do you know, some people need multicam, like the studio we're in today, and they want to shoot multiple angles and switch back and forth. Some people, it's really single camera. Sometimes it's just straight on, and you're just doing a desk because you're really doing effectively a video blog. And what's appropriate? How do you determine what's appropriate? And you know, lighting is always important. And so there was a chance to really share that with the audience, and I was very impressed. There were about 200 seats in the audience, and it was standing room. And I'm pretty sure that only about 50 of those people were our employees. So,
But was the audience attentive? I mean, you know, or did they ask questions? Or?
There were a lot of questions. As a matter of fact, we ran out of time to answer questions. And I think we could have gone on for hours. Because it's not that often that you get a chance to talk to people who, you know, either build studios for a living, which is what we do, or people who manage the builds of studios and have been through the pain of what's involved. And in the case of Tom's, they were very fast builds, some of the fastest builds I've ever been involved in. Or somebody who's really, you know, commercially doing it out of their basement. And, you know, what is it that makes it work for them?
So it makes me think that NAB show is a really valuable show for people in the media industry, where our job is all about communication, where we all get together and we get a chance to communicate together, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing about it. Yeah, that's great. So Matt, any thoughts on products or technologies that we haven't brought up already?
You mentioned, you know, lighting.
I was going to ask about lights. Somebody please.
I
Thank
think
you.
There's so much advancements in lighting with lighting instruments to get a color range into a fixture. Used to be a lot of money, and now we're getting fixtures for a few $100 that do DMX, that do Bluetooth control, that you could actually link, you know, 20 lights in a studio and control it all, and dial in the color temperature. And I think that's a big, you know, high CRI and dialing in the color temperature is a big advancement in studio lighting, and it doesn't cost $8,000 a fixture anymore, or $20,000 a fixture. So
pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah, I think the light, what we're seeing in the lighting industry for broadcast applications and for cinema applications and so on has been very impressive, just like what Matt was saying. Really tiny lights doing an amazing job, or LED lights that are as bright or brighter than the HMI lights and so on that they've replaced in the past. A couple of cool things. Years ago, people would like, oh, I need an Arri light because I've got Arri cameras and they're going to be tuned for each other. And now companies like, I think, KinoFlow are making lights that you can tune to the camera you're using. And I just think that technology is fantastic. The other thing I saw that at the show is that people are using LED walls more and more. And now they make lights that are designed specific for those LED walls. And the lights can actually act just in the same way as the LED walls, right? They sort of like duplicate what the look is from the wall, and it just really helps to simplify the process of building a facility that's got like LED for your virtual background, and then you've got the lights and so on. So I thought that kind of technology is fantastic.
And actually, I think I saw a couple lighting fixtures where you're putting in your video content into the light fixture, so you could get the actual reflections of what's on that video wall. It's amazing. So your pixels are actually the same color, you know, not just color temperature, but your actual content of showing a reflection through the lights, the shadows, and it's.
And continuing on the topic of virtual reality and virtual production and so on, there are certain products that we've seen in the past, and they're just really getting to a point where they're perfecting, if you will. So locally here we have KPIX, and they're using software so that their weather report is absolutely amazing with the backgrounds and even artificial, not just the environment artificial, but we have AR elements and strewn in front and behind the talent. And so at the show we had companies like Zero Density and Disguise and Brainstorm and so on showing some remarkable things, but they're also more affordable or let's say less expensive products there as well. So seeing that kind of integration I thought was an exciting. I don't know if anyone saw anything in particular to point out about
AR wall.
AR wall.
AR wall was you could take a 98-inch TV and they had a small, it's a small Unreal Engine basically box, but it was like $25K that could do expanded XR video using a monitor.
Oh, so you're saying the monitor
itself,
is just a partial, but it extends.
And then it
the back.
extends, so you could do extended reality.
Oh, that's cool.
Just off a monitor and go to a small $25,000 box, which, you know, Ross and all the other guys, it's a lot more money to do that. So
especially if you're doing extended sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to see extended sets on that smaller scale at that price point was neat.
Sounds good. Any questions from the audience? It's, I'm certainly for myself, I'm run through pretty most of the questions that I had. So if there's a question from the audience, I'd be glad to grab it. Actually, I don't know if we have a mic for the audience though, so I'll have to repeat your question. So anybody raise their hand, please.
So John, actually before you jump in, there was one other thing that I think was really important at the show was that was big advance in audio. And up to now we've had, you know, we talked about the microphones, those things, but we've had digital mixing consoles a long time. And now we have really serious software-defined mixing consoles. The SSL people brought out their full SMPTE product, which is their top-of-the-line mixer running in public cloud. And that was a pretty big shift to fill out, especially the HoloScan environment.
Yeah, people came to see our demo, and the majority of new potential partners that we came away with were largely audio. Because we hadn't been thinking about audio before. You're mostly focusing on video, and then all these audio partners want to jump on board now. Because there's some great software-defined audio platforms.
And then the other thing that I thought was really important around audio was the prevalence, especially in live broadcast, and I'd say particularly in sports, of immersive audio. Bringing, we've had 5.1 for a long time, but the whole Atmos experience is very different. And I don't think there was a single booth I walked into that was playing audio that wasn't set up in some form of Atmos, which is, Dolby's format around immersive audio, and changes the experience pretty dramatically. Now we can ask questions.
So, but before I do that, actually, you brought up the word cloud, and that's something I didn't bring up. We haven't mentioned as a technology, and so in terms of cloud production, in terms of cloud post-production, was there anything at the trade show that struck out?
All the cloud stuff was in the West Hall.
Okay.
Jeff and I tried to get there about 6 times.
Yeah.
We got lost every time until the last day.
You didn't take
the Tesla loop.
We finally figured out that that's how you get there.
On our way out.
Yeah, and it was it was a lot, but we got there, and it was really cool. But we didn't get as much time to sort of chat with that crowd as we should have. But there was a lot of booths discussing that.
There was, funnily enough, the Grass Valley stand, okay, and their asset protection software utilizes a lot of cloud management, cloud storage management, and from the perspective of asset management, from a student, it just never struck me as something that was important to have your own cloud storage with, and with their service. I learned a little bit about it, and it was actually really interesting to see that their storage, their cloud storage and editor, they kind of have, I think they have a bit of an NLE situation with their asset manager for cloud space, but that was something that definitely stood out because I didn't consider asset management as a student yet. So,
and Grass Valley was there with the AMP platform, which is
similar
to similar to HoloScan in that it's all Kubernetes based microservices to a degree.
And actually, well, Dave, you could talk to AMP because it enables a complete production solution. So
correct. It's a shipping platform today that's been around really, pretty much since about the first week of the pandemic, I think. Really helped us get through the lockdown. And it's a complete environment that, there's a lot of modules that Grass Valley wrote, you know, switchers, routing, video signal processing, and then a lot of plug-in tools from third parties like Telos has intercom and things like that. And it's driving down the same concept as Holoscan. But it's a very mature commercial platform. It's actually, you're watching TV on it every day. It's made on it every day. And personally, our biggest client right now running on it, I think, is chess.com, which seems to be, who knew that many people watch chess? But, you know, the switching, the routing, all of those pieces are all there. And it's amazing because now Grass Valley, being a long, venerable hardware company, has taken the physical interfaces that so many of our operators are used to, that, you know, look like switchers and look like color correctors, and all of that now can run all of the cloud-based products at par. So again, for entry-level people, this means I can have a multi-cam live switched facility without having to spend $250,000 on equipment. All I need are my encoders to get to cloud, and I pay for the amount of time that I use this service, and then I turn it off. Pretty dramatic shift.
So any other product I just completely forgot about before I turn to the audience? Well, okay, then I'm going to ask the audience, see if I've got a question here. Yes, Pat, thank you.
So you were talking a little bit about the cloud, and we talked about AI, but particularly for the students and looking to the future. I was at NAB, and there was a session on AI in sports, and I learned that there was a game, an NHL game, this was AWS produced entirely in the cloud. So that seems to be the way not only Hollywood is going, but also live. What are your thoughts about that from your perspective and what you saw going forward?
So just to repeat Pat's question, it's really about what, you know, live production is like going into sports. So
and in the cloud.
And in the cloud.
Well, looking into the future, I can't do that. But yeah, definitely switching was something that was, I think, considered or brushed over with AI, as you have several subjects and talent, right? And like having a conversation, even if it was something like this, a panel, a couple of interviewers, that'd be enough to implement AI for use case in already transcoding like an interview, as well as switching, I think, video between subjects. So I end a sentence, Marcelle talks. Not right now, but you know, then it would switch cameras and angles. And then, because I think the microphone would be connected to the camera, and then from then it would be, it would understand who's speaking.
For sports, I thought it was really cool because it was sort of showing us, you know, one of the jobs that I've been shown a lot as a potential job for me through SMPTE, shout out. I've toured a couple, like, you know, sports streaming facilities, and it was interesting to see the future of that, where, you know, that would change what my job potentially at a place like that, how it would change. And so that was interesting to learn about. There was a panel that I really wanted to go to about switching live sports and AI that I missed because I won a raffle. And we couldn't find a room. So I got a camera bag instead, but I really wanted to go. Camera bag's super cool though, I use it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of free stuff, a lot of free stuff. Especially when there's four conference floors.
Any more thoughts on the cloud from?
I think the cloud, in production in the cloud, you can now, your crew could be wherever.
Yeah.
And so your A1, if you always want to use your A1 and that A1's not available because they're always traveling, you actually have access to your #1 crew that you would want more frequently because they're able to not have to travel as much. So I think I don't necessarily think it's taking away jobs. I think it's just keeping jobs in different places.
Maybe taking
just shifting
jobs away from the airlines.
Yes.
The
flights still seem packed.
There was some really cool stuff with that, with like updated trucks and production trailers and trucks. Just sort of seeing like the things we've all learned already on older tech. It's not necessarily going away, it's just getting better. and you still need humans in there controlling things and managing things. So it's not necessarily, you know, the jobs may be changing slightly, but they're not going away, was sort of what I took away from it.
I think that's this industry, maybe more than most, loves new tech. You know, and so I think there's always been a worry about jobs going away, you know, but that goes back to the Industrial Revolution. You know, everybody worried that if, you know, you were a person who harvested wheat and now there was a wheat harvesting machine, now you just became the guy who repaired the wheat harvesting machine. And I think that in our industry it's much the same. You know, there used to be a probably not very nice term for people who sat and painted out pixels on, and before that, painted with actual paint to paint out backgrounds. They used to be referred to as roto-monkeys because they just sat there and painted all day. And so, you know, today that job doesn't exist anymore. But the job of being on set to supervise the shoot, to make sure that the algorithms, would be them AI or regular algorithms, can do that rotoscoping automatically, is a job. And so it's that evolution.
Our professor, Misha, who's back in the control room right now, has a great analogy that I'm going to steal from him in broad daylight right now, where he talks about how, I can't remember if it was his grandmother or someone else's grandmother, how her life was completely changed when she got her first washing machine. Because before she'd spend like 12 hours a day hand washing everyone's clothes and hanging them up, and it took up her entire day. And then when she got a washing machine, she could start like painting and stuff like that in her spare time. So that's kind of what I think about too, is like, you know, a tool that makes your workflow faster isn't taking away your work. It's just helping you do your work better. So
I think that's the case for all automation in our part of the industry.
Sounds good. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, we got a few.
General state of the industry, what's your impression of, is the media industry heading in the right direction? Is it increasing jobs, you know, with all the content companies scaling back? Just from the profession.
The question is about the direction of the industry.
You know, I think particularly Kent was talking about, you know, what's the business state of the industry. And, you know, it's definitely in transition again. I mean, all you got to do is read any news feed and, you know, is Paramount going to be sold in one piece to the son of the guy who started Oracle? Or is it going to be broken up into chunks and sold off like dog food? You know, this is where the big media companies are at today. And in that it's a constant churn. It is interesting because I think we saw a very large amount of big new content creation, especially just pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and right towards the end, you know, just post-pandemic. And it has definitely slowed now. I think partially triggered by the strikes, but then at the same time watching the economics change. And I think, you know, some of that's probably the fact that people are now out and about again. They're not sitting home watching as much. And they're not, you know, you're going to make a trade-off of, am I going to keep my 16 streaming services at $7 a month, or am I going to cut some of those off and use some of that money to go bowling? You know, and so I think there is an economic factor around that. But it always ebbs and tides.
I think on the filmmaking side, the hard part for us here is in the States is a lot of countries are giving tax incentives, and that's taking work out of the U.S. So jobs are happening, the work's happening, you still need people to create the content, but a lot of it's happening out of the U.S. strictly because of tax rebates. You could go make a film in London, which is an expensive city like San Francisco, but you get a 30% tax rebate on, you bring $1 million in, you get $300,000 back. So that's a big impact that I don't think is talked enough. And we need more film commission support, and we need to figure out how to incentivize our governments here to help our industry. So.
I think it's true. Canada, that's certainly it's what created Vancouver.
Right.
You know, it's remarkable.
Chris, you had a question.
Yeah, you talked about software-defined workflows, and you showed one connect the dots with the, as a way of programming it. It seems like there's a new area of creating new jobs, just like, you know, and it's like, so what's that job look like? Are there any other user interfaces, or is it, you know, old-fashioned coding, or, you know, how is that software-defined workflows, how are they defined?
So the question is really with the new software-defined workflows, how does that redefine the operational interface? How does that redefine the user interface that people work with?
Well, kind of the control plane that you saw there was just hooking the modules together.
Yeah.
But then each node still has a traditional interface, because you would need like the vision mixer was one of the nodes, for example, from Sony. You still have a traditional mixer interface on top of that, but that's controlled, can be controlled through a physical hardware device that's network attached, or it could be some kind of GUI. So, I mean, so there's this level of connecting the dots, which maybe a broadcast engineer did in the past, and now it's done through software. But when you get to the actual production, you still have the knobs and dials that you need to change to make the data flow through the pipeline and make the actual production.
But you really need a network administrator.
Yeah.
You really need somebody, I think that's what's different in terms of technology today. I mean, when I went to film school, I was learning how to cut on film. And now you need to understand how to use a computer. And it's not just use a computer on the software side, because you guys are making it easy on the software side. But how does it all go together? How do you configure a network switch? And that stuff, I think, is really important to learn. At this level, it's, you know, at the college level that you're in film school, that you're learning network administration. It's not, you know, there are a lot of jobs out there on the network side that it may not be as creative, but if you don't have the network people, you don't have a studio anymore.
I agree. I think especially in mid-sized facilities and up, you know, you can't ignore the tech anymore. You've got to, you know, the underlying technology is the tool, and so, you know, to that end, Chris, I think there's a lot of code to write.
So I'm going to get in one last question real quick, although we only have about a minute or so. So Yasser, you had a question?
Sure. So on this side, I understand people are creating content. The cost of content is going down tremendously, but on the delivery side, being able to present the content, be able to show the content, discover the content, I think that's also in a transition. And I was wondering if anyone saw anything at NAB that kind of helped out with that part.
Alluvio.
So the question is, you know, are we improving on the side of the cost of distribution and the means of distribution? Sorry, and Dave, you were just mentioning.
No, I was just answering. You know, if you want to see a product that's, I think, revolutionizing how that will work, Alluvio, which is actually a Berkeley-based company, from the people who invented Aspera, that I think is poised to remarkably change how distribution will work, and enable distribution without some of the traditional big infrastructure companies. And I think that's going to be, those are the kinds of products that are probably going to be that next evolution.
So we're in our last minute, so I'm just going to quickly thank Misha Antonich, who's the leader of BEMA, who allowed us to be here today, and also my panel, Thomas True, Matt Levine, Dave Van Hoy, Joseph Borrego, Marcelle Rutherford, and I'm John Scheich signing off, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Are we muted?
Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. For more than 100 years, SMPTE has been a leader in the media technology industry, and we want you to join us for the next century of innovation.
Today, SMPTE has over 800 standards that make media workflows more efficient and produce higher quality content. And now, all of these standards are available as part of your SMPTE membership. But it doesn't stop there. Newer SMPTE standards include groundbreaking ST2110, the future of IP transport for video, audio, and data. And for virtual productions, SMPTE has Rapid Industry Solutions, or RIS. These are areas, along with AI and microservices, where SMPTE will continue to be the media technology leader, benefiting all of our members. SMPTE also provides the media technology industry with continuing education opportunities. Our members get access to these courses, including reduced price on instructor-led courses and self-study courses that are a part of your membership. At our core, SMPTE is a global community, and members get access to the benefits of that community, including events, marketing opportunities, and our premier publication, the Motion Imaging Journal.
We are SMPTE, and we want you to be SMPTE too.